It is actually crazy how I can see my makeup in the mirror and be like, God, that looks awful. And then when I record, somehow it makes sense. It's all that lighting, I swear. Welcome back to Sarah's Spare Corner. My name is Sarah. I'm the host of Sarah's Spare Corner. Sarah's Spare Corner encompasses gaming as well as arts, crafts, and various different forms of creativity. Additionally, I like sharing theories, concepts, and ideas as I am a philosophy major. And when I'm not bored, I might travel places and I might post about it. Today, we are going to be doing something a little bit more off cuff because, I guess maybe not. So update, if you haven't seen my short or reel on Instagram, short from YouTube, I should say, I am a Slovak descendant living in Canada. And there is a citizenship available to people who are it's literally called citizenship by descent. And I would technically qualify. So I have recently talked about this, and I thought it would be interesting to kind of share slowly my progress on this thing. So the following information I have found out so far. It would be best to submit an entire family's paperwork together instead of individually, because if you do it individually, you have to repeat the same process certain amount of times. Obviously, each applicant is going to be filling out their own application, but from what I understand, things like family history, documents, all of those have to be re-put in the system several different times. So it would make more sense to just do it all at once. So far I'm in communication with my family and finding out who does want to apply for this and who does not. We also need to pay for a translator because the files need to be completely input into Slovak language. Now, my auntie and my father, they do speak Slovak, but from what I understand, their language is pre-World War II, so the translation might not be current Slovak. For example, I was watching a video about, because I follow some Slovak Instagram channels. There was a group of 4 women in traditional Slovak clothing singing a Christmas song, and I asked my dad what they were saying, and he was like, I don't know, because that is an entirely different language at this point. And it could also be that maybe, he is missing certain slang words and stuff like that. But from what I understand, just the simple separation from when his family moved to Canada and then to now, I think the language has completely developed, because that's what happens, language develop, right? So we may need to pay for a translator if my aunt and my father cannot translate the full documents properly, which is fine. I'm sure we can make that work. We also, though, thankfully, because we are Slovak descent and we can prove it, we also do get to skip the requirement of language. If you're applying to citizenship for different countries, oftentimes you have to fulfill a language requirement. But because we are fulfilling for a citizen by descent, we don't have to pass a language requirement, which is kind of nice because, obviously I want to learn Slovak, but obviously that can be a little bit more tedious over time. But there is also an interesting thought about this is the only reason why I know this is because I sent in a referral or just a quick free reference from a lawyer who works particularly on immigration into Slovakia, and he told me that. So that's how I know that me or anybody else in my family, for that matter, who want to apply for citizen of descent, we won't have to fulfill the language requirement. And basically, because we have all the documents necessary to apply for this, we don't need a lawyer. Because oftentimes, if you don't have those documents, you hire a team and they'll have historians on the team that will try to find those documents for you. But since we already have the physical documents and it's basically just signing a bunch of papers, we don't really need to know anything else. The only thing or we don't really need to hire anybody. The other thought that is necessary is 2 things are required. Obviously, you have to apply through your embassy. Since we're Canadians, all of us, we would be applying through the Slovak consulate in Canada. And then what you would end up doing is you would go in person to Slovakia and you would hand in these documents yourself. Do you mind? hand in your documents with your family or whatever, and then they do an in-person interview. Now, it's unclear to me if we would all be individually interviewed or we would all be interviewed together. It's really hard to say, but I'm sure that information will come to us the further we go on. But it seems as if myself and possibly my aunt will be the people kind of going for this, because there's several of us who want to do this, but there's a bunch of things going on in my family. And since I have a YouTube channel, this is also a great time for content, which is also a really good motivator. Like sometimes I'm like, I need to clean my house. I'll just like record me cleaning my house and it gets things done. Anyway, okay, so we're going to switch over and I'm going to see if I can find some of this information online. I want to look for specifically the application for Canadians. Okay, so I have Googled, as any other regular person who's trying to find information does. Obviously, we're going to ignore this because that's not what I asked. So we're going to open up this tab and let's see. This one I think was something I read, but it gives you kind of more information about it. I just want the actual, actual application. Guide for paper application of citizen certificate, maybe. Okay. Oh, and then I guess there's a complete guide here. So we'll just open that up as well. Okay, so let's read the complete guide first. So Slovakia Citizenship by the Descent, the complete guide. This is by the company Citizen. And then it's Katie and Anania. Oh, I'm sorry. I think if this is the same person, I think I watched one of her videos the other day on YouTube. Okay, so what does the Slovakia Citizen by Descent mean? Which I've already explained, historical background and context. So yeah, this applies to people who, it doesn't apply to certain people from what I understand, from this period of time, but it does apply to people who were pre-World War II, which was definitely my family members. So there is new requirements of April 2022, which I guess is not new at this point. Several conditions of requiring citizenship, particularly allowing second and third generation descendants of Slovak nations to apply without meeting the long-term residency or language requirements that standard applicants face, which is literally me. Also loosened the strict 2010 previous that the penalized dual citizenship. Okay, so we're okay with that, which is good because I'd probably get a dual citizenship. Facilitate children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of former Slovak or Czechoslovakian or Czechoslovak citizens born in Slovakia have facilitated. I mean, how can you get me to fulfill a language requirement if I can barely do English? Dyslexics for the win. The law explicitly waives the usual 8-year continuous residency requirement for qualifying descendants and waives the Slovak language exam, recognizing maybe many second and third generation descendants may not be fluent in Slovak. This change was intended to reconnect Slovakia to its diaspora, and estimated to make up 1.5 million people of Slovak heritage worldwide, potentially eligible for EU citizenship through this route, which will be me. I don't need to read that. Dual citizenship possibility. Slovakia's stance on dual citizen has evolved significantly in the recent years. Currently, Slovak law does not require you to renounce your existing citizenship when you acquire Slovak citizen by descent. In other words, American, Canadian, me, or other foreign citizens can become Slovak without giving up their original citizenship. Slovakia permits dual citizenship for those gaining Slovak citizen by descent or entitlement. The main legal restriction has been reverse scenario. Previously, Slovak citizens who have voluntarily acquired another citizen could lose their Slovak citizenship. That would be sad. That would be very sad. In 2010, a law automatically stripped Slovak citizens from individuals who took a foreign citizenship, and very limited exceptions. This was highly controversial, especially affecting Slovaks living abroad. Recent changes in 2022 have liberated this policy. Slovaks who've lived abroad for at least 5 years can obtain a second citizenship without losing their Slovak citizenship. The law now provides if a Slovak citizen acquires a foreign citizenship, can prove at least 5 years of legal residency in the foreign country, that will not be stripped of Slovak citizenship. Additionally, acquiring other citizen by marriage, birth, or minor or other causes of Slovak citizenship, those who lose Slovak citizenship under the old rule 2010-2022 can now apply to have restored their simplified terms. That's nice. We're not Americans, so anyway. But maybe we should read it. Okay. The situation is straightforward. The United States allows dual citizenship and does not require renunciation of the U.S. citizenship when one naturalizes in another country. Therefore, a U.S. citizen obtaining Slovak citizenship by descent will retain their... Okay, yeah, so that didn't really have anything to do with me. Okay. Summary, holding a dual... I'm not duo. This is not Duolingo. Dual Slovak and other citizenship is legal as long as the acquisition of the second citizen falls under the acquired categories. Can Slovak citizens by descent be passed on to children? But the process depends on the circumstances. If your children are born after you became a Slovak citizen, you typically be Slovak citizens by birth, since one of you is a Slovak. Okay, well, this doesn't have to do with me. Okay, so here's what we need. We need a proof of identity, a valid passport, a government ID showing your current name and photo, your birth certificate. So I actually yesterday, I tried looking for my birth certificate the other day and I realized I lost it. So I have actually ordered mine in. It is coming in. So we have a proof of identity. I do have a valid passport or government ID. My birth certificate is coming in. The long form version listing your parents, which I actually purchased both. So there's that. Documents proving lineage to the Slovak ancestor, typically birth, marriage, death certificates for each generation linking you to the ancestor who's Czechoslovak citizen, which we do have. Proof of ancestor citizenship, document like an old Czechoslovak passport. We actually have one. Certificate of the Czechoslovak citizenship, naturalized papers, and state of former nationality. Yep, we have those. Criminal record check. So you must provide a criminal record extract from each country where you're currently a citizen, each country where you have resided for more than 6 months in the past 15 years. Okay, so I'm going to write this down because that will be something we need to get. There we go. Okay. Requirements for citizen by descent. All right. Government ID. My keyboard is so messed up. Government ID. Ew. Okay, actually what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to we're going to copy and paste. Thank you so much for writing all this down for me. Okay, get rid of that. Put this down. There we go. Okay, but we're going to continue reading. So, documents proving lineage of the Slovak ancestor. We read that. Proof of ancestor citizenship. Have that. Criminal record check. So this one I will have to get done. I haven't gotten one done probably in like a couple of years, but that's okay. Proof of residence in Slovakia. Since Slovak residence permit is a condition for the grant of citizenship, you need to include evidence of your residence status in Slovakia. But this might be like a different type of citizenship because I don't think that has to do with lineage. Because I haven't heard anything about how you need approval timeline, acquiring Slovak citizen, the passport, potential tax, other perks, dual citizenship is allowed. What if none of my no, that's not my issue. Can my spouse also apply? No. When will I get Slovak citizen? Do I have to pay taxes in Slovakia? What are new conditions? Okay, well, I think we should answer that question then. Do I actually need residency? Because if that's the case, then like everything's just thrown out the window because I don't think any of my family members have homes in Slovakia. We do have family members in Slovakia, but I think it's very distant relative. I don't know if we've even heard or spoken from any of them in a long time. I know my dad was connected to some for a while. My cousin did, I think, pen pal with one of our distant relatives for a while. I don't know if they're still pen pals. Okay. So this one is a little shaky. Is a permit, having a Slovak residence permit is a condition for the grant of citizenship. You need to include evidence of your residence status in Slovakia. I mean, my residence status in Slovakia doesn't exist. So yeah, I don't know if this video is like even worth it at this point anymore, but we're gonna keep trying, see if there's like a workaround that maybe. A document showing your current marital status, which is only applicable to people who are actually married in my family. Consent for minor children, which none of us are minors anymore. And then a curriculum vitae, and a questionnaire, detailed structure CV, and a standard questionnaire from the Foreign of Ministry of Interior. That's interesting. Additional supporting documents might be required depending on your case. So yeah, it depends on the case. Because like, why is it that, you know, the language requirement would be completely removed, but you have to have residency. I mean, I get that makes sense, but wouldn't they be like almost, what is it called? Not sufficient, the other word. Oh, I always forget these words. It's a term. Anyway, but they would have to be like almost exactly the same. So I don't know about this one. If you previously held any Slovak, Czechoslovakian citizenship, you need the document. So this could just be like general requirements. It may not be applicable to citizen by descent, because here's the thing, like if I'm trying to be a citizen by descent, but I don't live there yet because I don't have a visa, how can you require me to have land ownership if I don't even have this visa in the first place? Unless it's like assuming that you would only apply if you were already like living there. I don't know. Okay, well, let's skip to here. Applying in person versus remote. Well, okay, well, in person, this is going to be something we have to do because of the fact that I was listening to somebody on a podcast explain how you do have to go in person to apply. Okay, so citizen applications must be submitted in person. See, you cannot mail the application or have someone apply on your behalf. This person requirement is to verify your identity, and if you're a normal case, to conduct a Slovak language interview, but that's not for us. But for descendant cases, the language test is waived, which is us. If you live abroad, you are likely submitting your application to the nearest Slovak embassy or consulate. For example, okay, we're just going to skip that because that's American. You have a book appointment in advance for citizen application, as the consulates have limited slots for the service. Okay. I did also tell my family, I was like, if we're all going to do this, like we can just easily have a family trip and then just all apply together, which would be really fun. And maybe we'll be able to get in contact to those relatives that we haven't spoken into a long time. And the residence permit form, if done. The administrator's short interview mainly confirm your personal details. Unlike standard neutralized applicants, you will not be required to take a Slovak language exam or history test, since these are waived for ancestry applicants. However, the officials may converse with you in Slovak or English as needed. They will also take your oath that the information provided is true, which, if we could, maybe like if my father or my aunt can't fully if my father or my aunt can't fully understand the language, we can always maybe hire a translator. Maybe. If applying in Slovakia, the process is similar, but done in a regional office, such as Bratislava and Košice. Is that how you say that? I swear I've heard my papa say this particular city, and I think this is actually where my grandfather was born, I think. And I only think that because I saw the documents recently that stated his birth. I just can't remember if that's how you say it. So, pronunciation. I'm not getting medicine. Košice. Košice. No? Košice. It's like a very soft sound. Košice. Košice. If someone's watching this and they're Slovak, I'm so sorry. Learn the language. I will try. Okay, anyway, Košice. There is no fully remote or online application option. Personal attendance is mandatory to initiate the process, okay? When applying to Slovak embassy or consulate, bring all your original documents or certified copies to your scheduled appointment. The authorities will examine these documents, make photocopies to include your file, and return the originals to you, perhaps for the apostilled background check, which they might keep. If you're applying with family members, siblings applying together, or parent minor, each person's applicant is separate, but you can usually schedule a back-to-back appointment and share some of the common documents, multiple originals, or notoriety. Okay, so this is very important to know, because then that means, I'm just going to copy this and put it in my little notes section. That means that when we go, we can schedule back-to-back, but we will not be all in one applicant appointment. And we can share the documents. Multiple originals or notoriety copies might be required for each file. So, well, especially if we're all there, right? We could always just like hold them in our hands, give it to each other before we walk in. The documents should be organized in logical order, with translations attached to the corresponding originals. All foreign documents must be properly apostilled or legalized and translated into Slovak with a certified translator. Yes. This I know to be true. Okay, so we're going to copy this as well. Put that down. During the appointment, you will sign the application form and swear an oath that the information is true. The consular office will guide you through any additional forms or requirements specific to your case. So it seems as though like we have all the information And then we go to the consulate in, say, Bratislava or Košice. I'm so embarrassed. How do you say this again? Košice. I'd be ashamed. Košice. So wherever we end up going to, what it looks like the embassy is mostly in Bratislava, which is deciding authority. The ministry will log your applicant and become a comprehensive review. So during this process, you'll have background checks. The ministry will verify your criminal record information, coordinating with Slovak law enforcement and possibly Interpol to ensure you don't have any disclosed criminal record issues. Well, that's not a thing for my family. Verification of the documents. Your submitted documents, especially those proving ancestry, may be verified by authenticity. If something's unclear, they will consult an expert or require clarification via the embassy. The ministry often seeks opinions from other agencies or ministries. For example, they'll ask the Slovak Intelligence Service or other security agents if they have any information on the applicant. And then the residence permanent insurance. In ancestry cases, since the citizenship is contingent on having, that was the word contingent I was thinking of, contingent on having a residence permanent issuance. In ancestry cases, since the citizenship is contingent on having a resident permanence, the authority will ensure your permanent residence permit is processed, usually not long after your application is submitted. The foreign police will issue a decision on your 5-year permanent residency. This is interesting. I don't know if this is possible now reading that. If it all goes well, the Ministry of Interior will ensure a decisive grant you Slovak citizen. Decision is often accompanied by a request to take the oath of allegiance. If you are an adult, the grant of citizen is only finalized upon the oath, which you will usually do at the embassy or the district office. And you will receive a certificate of Slovak citizenship. The process can take up to 24 months or 22 years. Ministry receives your complete application. This maximum. It does not mean every case takes that long, but it's an upper limit due to various checks needed. So it's not even that specifically for the residency. It seems as though you have to have residency in Slovakia specifically. So like if you're living in the EU, for example, so you'd have to be in Slovakia, have a home in Slovakia, I should say, in order to be verified as a citizen. Okay, what are the conditions if not met? If you don't meet the conditions for direct citizenship by descent, your ancestor is beyond third generation or cannot prove that they held Slovak citizen, you have still alternatives. The Slovak living abroad certificate path is a primary alternative. This requires having a Slovak authenticity rather than the citizenship, followed by 3 years of residency by Slovakia. Okay, so that could be useful. If you're committed to obtaining Slovak citizenship but don't qualify through ancestry, you could pursue a regular naturalized by establishing residency in Slovakia after 8 years. 8 years! Oh my God. If you've already submitted an application but the ministry determines you don't qualify, they will issue a denial with an explanation. You can sometimes appeal this decision if you believe it was made in error, or you can provide additional information. If the law changes in the future, as they did in 2022, your eligibility could change. Slovakia has been granted liberalization in its citizen law, so keep informed about the legal documents that's beneficial. See, the thing is, though, is this one's a little bit more complicated because it's like if you want to get citizenship and you're like, I would love to live there kind of thing, it would make sense to get citizen by descent so that you could purchase property, right? Or rent a room or something like that. But because you can't just rent a room in a place that you don't have connection with. So am I supposed to get like a visa, like a work visa or something like that, live there for a year and then apply? Like, how would that work? Okay, which documents need for apostilles and legalization? How certified copies work? Common reasons for application delays. I guess this is just more complicated because it's like, determine if you're qualified under 3-generation rule, parent, grandparent. I do. Family tree. don't need to. Near a Slovak embassy or consulate for guidance on the application process, documenting requirements is specific to your country. So I probably should talk to the Slovak embassy in Canada, begin collecting birth, death certificates, required documents, authenticity. So I think what I'll do next is, prepare for application submission, schedule an appointment at the Slovak embassy or consulate, organize your documents to be ready to apply for both residence permanency and citizenship simultaneously. So maybe that's how we do this, is you have to apply for both at the exact same time. But then didn't it say you have to have proof of residency? So did they mean residency permit or just a house in general? A residency permit. Okay, so what would have to happen then? It doesn't look like we have to have a home, but we do have to apply for residency permit, which, okay. I mean, if we're doing this, it basically would be the same thing, no? In your case complex, consider hiring a genealogist or a legal profession who specializes in Slovak citizen. We don't have to worry about that. Be prepared for potentially lengthy process, 6 to 24 months. Yeah, see, I'm okay with that because we've got time. All right, so we're going to look at that in a second. So we're Canadians. Prepare application for citizen certificate for adults and minors. Now, this might be for people coming into Canada, to be fair. Yeah, so this is for Canadians, or people who are wanting to become a Canadian, and I'm already a Canadian, so I'm good. I'm going to just move myself slightly over so maybe, you can actually see what's going on here. Okay, so this was literally written last month. Literally, not figuratively. Oh my gosh. Slovakia citizenship by descent offers individuals with Slovak heritage a unique opportunity to reconnect with their ancestry roots while obtaining a European Union citizenship, which is definitely what I'm after, has implemented one of the most progressive citizen by ancestry programs in the European Union. Yeah, everybody that I was looking into yesterday and watching videos about, all of them said that Slovakia actually has some of the most progressive and easy applications, so you can get in there faster than other people. Let's see. This groundbreaking legislation enables children, grandchildren, great-grandparents of qualifying Slovak ancestors to apply for a Slovak citizen by descent without demonstrating Slovak language proficiency, culture, knowledge, or maintaining continuous residency. Okay, so we don't need to. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this, put this in my notes over here. So it looks like, no, you don't need actual residency in Slovakia, but you need to apply for residency permit, and that's where things go. But it could be possible that it's the exact same file, so maybe what we'll probably do is just have duplicates of the same file. But I actually need to return to this later because I have to go to work. So we will be back in a couple of seconds for you, but for a few hours for me. So 1 second. Okay, so we were looking at this website, how it was giving us some information. Now, after we double checked, there was a suggestion on a Reddit page, which is Reddit, to look at your embassies for more information. So I actually went to the Canadian embassy. I'm just going to move myself quickly. There we go. All right. So the Canadian embassy, here we go. It has specifically information on Slovak citizenship by descent. Oh, in the way again. Great. All right. So obtaining a Slovak citizen by descent. Now, keep in mind, right before we read all this, I did also send a letter into the embassy to get a little bit more information on some of these things because there is still some questions. I did confirm with my mother about a couple of things as well. So as of April 1st, 2022, a person is able to apply for Slovak citizenship by descent. Part of the application is to get a permanent resident permit in Slovakia is the very first step. So that means there will be 2 applications for you to make. You will submit both applications at the exact same time. So when they were talking about permanent residency, they were specifically talking about a permanent residency permit. Now, the one that they linked to, because they gave us a bunch of files, is the 5-year permanent residency. And I think the reason why, but I did send a letter asking for more answers about this particular thing. But I think the reason why is once you become a Slovak citizen by descent, then in theory, you won't need the 5-year residency. So I think the reason why you're applying to permanent residency for a 5-year term, because that is the shortest term for a permanent residence, is that you'll be considered already a resident of Slovakia, and then you're applying for citizenship by descent, which allows you the full citizenship. I think it's just kind of like a temporary thing, so that the way it goes into the system, I assume, is that would be the case. But again, this is an assumption. I did send in a letter to find in more information about this. And so I will keep you updated when the answer comes for that. Like, why would you need a permanent residency permit if you're already applying for citizenship by descent? So I think it's just something so that when you're applying, it's already considered that you're already a resident. And then you can apply for permanent residency by descent. But since I don't have residency and I don't have permanent residence permit, I think that's kind of the point. So you'll submit both at the same time. The permanent residency part is an administrative requirement for citizenship. Yeah, so I think it really just comes down to the reason why this is put out is for administrative reasons. So to qualify for both, you need a parent, a grandparent, a great-grandparent who was born, or a citizen of Czechoslovakia. So the relevant period is from 1918, when Czechoslovakia was formed, to 1989, when the two republics were formed. So I double checked with my mom just to make sure. I'm like, the period of time can only be within 1918 to 1989. And I'm like, just to clarify, do we have that proof? And she said yes. So thankfully we do have this, which means we still have a higher chance of, Anyways, in order to apply for Slovak citizenship, you must submit the following documents. But this is if there's anybody, children 14 years or older must apply in a separate application with no parents. Well, everyone that's going to apply in my family are older than 14. So we have to fill out an application, which I think is right here. Everything is written in Slovak first, and then it's written in English, which is nice. You have to have 2 photographs. It says 1, but you actually need 2. It says, 2 photographs, 3.53 centimeters, which makes sense because this is, I think this is for, permanent residency application. So usually you'd have a photograph, and then you have a bunch of information. Now, there is one statement where it says, where do you live kind of thing, because you're a permanent resident, right? So I think what it says here is if, in case you do not have such document, just state a village or town on the application. So you just pick a random town. So Bratislava, for example. Then you would give it the information of your family and partners and all that other stuff. Give information of, again, family members, children, siblings, amount of administrative charge, stamp and signature. So this is obviously done by the embassy. And then, you would fill this out. This is what you would hand in at the exact same time as handing in for permanent residency by descent. You'd obviously give information of your passport, your birth certificate, and actually the one that I looked at, not this page, but there was a birth certificate that was listed. I think we already talked about it. Birth certificate that you need mother and father both on. So I'm going to have to, but I sent in an email with the embassy just to clarify. I'm like, if my family members don't have a birth certificate that has both parents, are they still, do they have to go get one? And so we'll see what they say about that, because obviously like it says that it has to be authenticated by an apostille, which I was like, what does that mean? So this is actually something that is entirely different. That is right here. So it talks about how, and this is all in Slovak, but basically it's a minister of each of these provinces: Alberta, British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, and I think this one just says Saskatchewan. So let's click on Ontario, for example. So here you would have ones working, studying, traveling abroad, and destination recipients might ask for certificates of authentication or apostates to ensure the public documents, birth certificates, corporate powers of attorney, and diplomas are valid. So we would hand in all of our documents, birth certificates, passports, diplomas, for example, certificates of divorce. We would give those to the minister of Ontario, whoever they are. You'd send this information in, and then they would basically verify the documents. Documents in languages other than English must be issued in Canada, notarized by English Notary Public. So I think what happens is translation option 1, issued by the certified Canadian translator. A certified translation is certified by a member of a list of recognized provincial translators. So there's actually in here, each province has a bunch of different translators. So we'll go into here, for example, and we would need a Slovak translator. So we go to the directory and we would say what we're looking for. So I'd say Slovak. Okay. Now I'd search and then it would give me everybody who actually fits in here, which is just one person. So we'd have to get this person, for example, to certify our documents. And in the translation. So first you'd get it translated, then you would have it certified or authenticated by the commissioner. So yeah, there's like a whole step to this, obviously. Okay. So then you would need proof of your ancestors' Czechoslovakian citizenship, which we can prove. Czechoslovak passport, citizen certificate, or record of census of 1930 to 1940. Documents on the recipient personal status. So that would be whether or not I was married, or death of a spouse, or if I got divorced, they'd need that information. Relevant Canadian office and translated by official translator to Slovak, which would be, again, received by the postal. And then we'd have to have documents proving your ancestor was born in the territory of the current Slovak Republic. The applicant apply for the grant of Slovak citizenship must submit proof of birth certificates of bloodline to the ancestor, grandparent, great-grandparent who is Czechoslovakian. In case of your children, this one's only to people who are having children. But this is a little bit unclear. So I actually emailed again. In the email that I sent, I kind of said, there was a mention somewhere about needing documents to prove of ancestry. I'm like, does that just mean the documents that we're already submitting? Or does this mean that we have some kind of write-up to do? But again, this is trying to work on it, right? So then this one is the application for Slovak citizenship through descent. So we have our completed citizen application. I believe I actually already have this. I am clearly having a day because I have recorded the last section of this video twice. First time I forgot to turn on the sound. Second time I forgot to start the recording. Oh my gosh. I am definitely done recording for today, but I'm going to show you what I was working on because, dear God. So we were in this section. This application right here is actually the exact same thing as the questionnaire, which is this file. It is 8 pages long, which it gives you, it asks for questions about you and your heritage. And then it also asks you, how can you connect this to your family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very short application / questionnaire, which is pretty simple. I thought I was expecting a 30-page document or something, but no, it's 8 pages. That's doable. Then you have to write a brief CV. And I'm just going to say this in advance now so I don't have to repeat myself 7 times. But each document needs to be authenticated by a minister of, I think it's called, I'm trying to remember, minister of where is it? Well, let's just click Alberta for a second. So it needs to be authenticated by an apostille convention, which each document will need to be authenticated. So certificate of divorce, education records, other documents, etc., etc. They also need to be translated. And thankfully, this website actually provides us with a place that we can check for translators. So we would first get the documents approved or authenticated, and then we'd also have it translated into the Slovak language. And this is a requirement for the application, which I'm pretty sure is the exact same thing for the first one. So you'd basically just be authenticating everything twice. Then you need documents proving your relationship to your family. So a citizenship, submit proof of Czechoslovakia citizen of this ancestor, application applying for the grant. Granting must prove birth certificates, a bloodline to the ancestor, right? So everyone's birth certificates, which we have them. And then I also asked, because I sent an email to the embassy just to double check some of these things. And I double checked. I'm like, I know that you say specifically that you want birth certificates. Do you want the ones that list the parents on the birth certificates, like of everybody who applies? Or can a regular birth certificate work fine? And if that's the case, then I'll have to let everybody who wants to apply for this know that either if they don't have that birth certificate, they're going to have to get a new one. You also need to get an RCMP criminal record check from the federal level and or a criminal registry extract of each country that you were a citizen for more than 180 consecutive days in the last 15 years. So obviously this means if you were a criminal and you lived in America and Canada, but you only have a criminal record in the United States, then you'd need the information for both. And then, of course, you'd have this translated and authenticated. This obviously applies to children as well. You would need the parents' approval. You'd have a certificate of the status of Slovak living abroad, if applicable. That's if you were living somewhere else. Other documents with name changes, as well as divorces and stuff like that, anything really, then you'd need that again authenticated and translated. And then these last 6 ones, which are very strange. So you'd need a confirmation of the tax office, confirmation of your employment, confirmation of the public health insurance payments, confirmation of income tax payments, confirmation of study, and confirmation of pension income. Now you can replace the last 6 confirmations listed above, these right here, if you are going to do a written statement in front of a lawyer. I don't know. This one's a little but I'll do it. And then they need to be obviously authenticated and translated into Slovak. All documents except the last 6. Oh, wait, sorry. All documents except the last 6 need to be translated into Slovak and obviously authenticated. So the last 6 ones, I guess you can just send in your English versions. I don't know why. And then obviously all documents. So it says here that the residency application or the permanent residence application will be processed within 90 days of being received in Slovakia. Once your residency permit is issued, a copy will be sent to the Ministry of Interior to process your citizenship request. So the residency permit goes first after 90 days of being processed, which it's in 90 days. Like 90 days is the max. You could have it processed technically within a week, I guess. And then the process of getting your permanent residency through citizen of descent, then it would be the permanent residency and your citizenship request would be sent to the Minister of Interior of Slovak Republic. And they have 24 months to process the application. And they say in reality, it takes less than that. So that could be up to, I think 24 months is 2 years, I believe. So this is saying it could take a little less than 2 years. It's unclear how long. And then it just says, once the citizen application has been submitted in person to the embassy, once you get the citizenship certificate, we'll inform you how to process further. All right. And then it says the citizenship application must be submitted in person to the embassy in Slovakia in Ottawa, and the appointment must be made by phone in advance. So I checked, or I sent within that email that I sent like a whole bunch of questions to, like asking how much is is there going to be fees for handing in the application and all that other stuff. Because, like sometimes when you get visas, for example, to other countries, you have to pay a certain amount of money just for getting the visa. So, but because it says specifically here that you do have an appointment at the Embassy of Slovakia in Ottawa, but I also heard somewhere that there also needs to be an in-person interview in Slovakia. So Morticia, can you not? So I also sent a letter kind of asking further, does this mean that you have 2 appointments, one in Ottawa at first, and then when you're submitting the papers into Slovakia, which it doesn't say anything like that here. So maybe that won't be the case, because of Canadian citizenship. I don't know, but anyways, whew. All right, so here is where this kind of leaves us. So it might take a little bit longer than expected to get these files processed, but I think it will be worth it. I obviously don't know how long it'll take to get all of this done. In the meantime, it gives me time to, one, prepare the information, connect with my family about this kind of stuff, and make a game plan, as well as get all the documents ready, and then also plan for long-term costs. Like, for example, what I would like to do is obviously study abroad. So this gives me time to prepare an application for a master's in the countries appropriate, as well as connect with my friend. Because my friend and I also have decided that maybe it would be best for us to study abroad together, because in that way we can just both live in the same house kind of thing. So, but that kind of leaves where we are today. So if you have ever applied for Citizen of Descent, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. I mean, it doesn't just apply to Slovak descents. I mean, my friend who wants to go is also German. So if you've applied to anywhere for Citizen by Descent, I think that would be interesting to hear from you. I know some people are doing that even with Canada. If you're interested in this, or you're working on this yourself, if you got some interesting details, feel free to share with them. Share with me. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye now.